Hello and welcome to Chaos Effect. As always, I'm your gracious host, McLain. With
And I'm,
me,
oop, sorry.
with
That's,
me, cutting me off like clockwork.
sorry. Hi, Tyler.
Today we are talking about the inspiration for the Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves. So to start the story, we have to go way, way back before the Civil War to the era of slavery.
Oh
But
boy, it's always
first, I want to ask you, Tyler, do you know anything about Bass Reeves?
um my biggest exposure to Bass Reeves was actually through the HBO Watchmen series, where
I did not know he was in it.
yeah, so the show, like, I think in the first episode it opens up with a young William Reeves watching uh a movie. It was Trust in the Law, and he was watching a movie about Bass Reeves in the theater in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. And while he was in the theater, if you don't know anything about Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, shit breaks out.
Yeah,
But that was the intro to the show, and that's the
right.
most
So
exposure.
Bass Reeves was the first black marshal and probably the greatest gunslinger in the Wild West. He was born in Crawford County, Arkansas. He was born a slave in 1838. Well, his owner was William Reeves, which, boy, is there worse than saying somebody's owner was William Reeves. Um, yeah, William Reeves, his last name Reeves comes from the family that owned him.
Hmm,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's that sucks, right?
Yeah, but
Um,
I'm also like, that makes Watchmen a little bit more interesting.
Bass Reeves served as a water boy, but eventually he worked along his family as a field hand. He was named after his grandfather. Um, Now, Williams, the landowner, owned a plantation, and he was also involved in some small politics at the time, and would later move his operations to Texas in 1848, 46. I mean, the county was moved to Grayson County, Texas. The operation was moved to Grayson County, Texas. Bass could be described as a humorous, gentleman-like, good-natured man. However, he also stood at 6'2", which was very tall for the time, and was in very good shape from working the demanding physical labor of the fields all day. William Reeves' son George Reeves made Bass his valet companion and bodyguard. Now, when the Civil War broke out, Texas sided with the Confederacy because racism. Um, George Reeves became an officer and brought his slave Bass with him because make sure the guy who's probably thought about killing you 1,000 times a day has a gun in his hand. Unfortunately, what you're thinking does not happen. This story would be much cooler if he just went all Django and shot him in the face halfway through the war. Instead, now during the War of Rights, as it's referred to, Bass found himself on the wrong side. Was and pretty soon had enough of his racist master's shit. This was evident when, after a card game, he decided to beat the shit out of George Reeves.
Oh,
It is unknown if George Reeves survived or lived. It's also sometimes disputed where or not what started the fight. Some believe that Bass simply decided he wanted to have his freedom. Some believe that there was a dispute over the card game, and Bass snapped and decided to beat the shit out of George Reeves. Either way, a shit-eating slave owner got his teeth pushed in.
that's what I like to see.
Yeah. Bass Reeves found himself in Native American territory. He spent time amongst the Seminole, Cherokee, and Creek Indians. While with them, he learned their languages, customs, and their tracking skills, as well as combat from them. Around this time, he also mastered firearms, and in some ways, he mastered disguise too. He was so skilled with he was very skilled with the pistol. He was so skilled with the rifle that he was often barred from joining turkey shoots.
Turkey shoots.
Do you not know what a turkey shoot is?
Is it just do you go around and shooting turkeys?
It's so much dumber than that. So basically, they get like a ton of turkeys in cages and they let them loose in front of a firing range and people shoot them.
So they're going around shooting turkeys that they let out intentionally just so they could shoot
To
them.
shoot, yes. You
You know,
don't have to move even. Like you're making it sound like there's any effort. There's zero effort in turkey shoots. It used to be a real test of marksmanship in the days of flintlock rifles and even this time period. But now in the era of automatic shotguns, it's semi-automatic shotguns.
the,
It's just
seems a bit it sounds like a waste of good meat.
yeah. Yeah, because I don't like food that's been shot because it doesn't always taste great.
And I'd rather my turkey not be seasoned with gunpowder.
Yeah. Um. So when the Civil War came to an end, and the Emancipation Proclamation was passed, he was finally a free man. Now, I want to really state something that I found incredibly ironic. On every website and every source I use, whenever they said "and the slaves were freed," it's always with quotation marks around it.
Yeah, because that's how it was.
Yeah, it's like you are free-ish. Do I have rights? Not
There's
really.
like you're free with an asterisk. Like there's a little footnote under the word free. Is like you're free, but you can't do this, you can't do this, and like the Confederacy is still around. We haven't won the war just yet. You're only like free
Yeah,
here. But once we beat those guys, you'll be free. But then they're gonna try to limit your freedoms even more by prevent. You still can't vote yet. You still can't be citizens.
yeah. So he was no longer on the run from the wall because even though he was a runaway slave, that wasn't the biggest of his problems. He was also a deserter of the Confederate Army. But you can't desert something that doesn't exist anymore.
Hey,
Yay. Um, so he became a successful farmer and rancher, marrying Nellie Jenny. Together, they would raise 10 children.
dear
5
Lord.
girls, 5 boys.
I mean, at least it's got the perfect ratio.
Yeah. He often served as a scout and liaison for any business going on between the United States, companies, and the Native American territory. He also served as a guide for the deputies marshals looking for criminals under the Van Buren Court. Now under the new court in Indian Territory has slipped into lawlessness, becoming a haven for criminals to hide out. Isaac Parker's first order when he took the position judge of the court was to make James F. Fagan, another famous law enforcement officer from this time, a federal marshal, to recruit some 200 deputies. This included Bass Reeves, who was a prime candidate. His experience in tracking, shooting, and his ability to speak languages in native territory made him a prime candidate for this period. Him and his fellow deputies were tasked with bringing order to this lawless territory to clean it up. Reeves worked alongside other legends such as Heck Thomas, Bud Lebder, and Bill Tillman, all which are probably worthy of their own episode at some point or another, but we're focusing on Reeves for now. Reeves was tasked with covering 75,000 square miles by himself in Oklahoma, and this was in Oklahoma. He was hunting for criminals, and he didn't travel alone like Westerns would depict. He often traveled with a cook and a Native American posse man. Because Reeves did not know how to read or write, he actually had some difficulty needing people to read or write the warrants to him, but he often memorized the warrants and could deliver them without any confusion. Reeves was menacing, always riding on a white stallion, dressed in boots, a large hat, sometimes disguising himself either as a cowboy, outlaw, sheriff, or farmer. He always wore 2 pistols, butt forward to be more effective at a quick draw. When he'd clear leather, he rarely missed and was barely beat. And I think that's the most cowboy thing I've said, when he cleared leather.
Hell yeah.
I'm not quoting anything. That's just what I thought was appropriate. During He'd often used his, like I said, he often used disguises to get. He very few quick draws he was involved with. He never missed. During one of his warrants tracking, he was after two outlaws nearing the Texas border. Reeves gathered a posse of about 20 men and tracked them down. He tracked them back to their mother's home. To get close to Reeves, disguised himself as a tramp. He took with him his guns and some handcuffs, and he made it to the door and shot. Well, before that, I should ask, he also grabbed a hat that had 3 bullet holes in it. He came up to the woman's door and told a story about how he was on the run from the law, how he used a place to rest his feet, and he'd been shot at 3 times, hence the hat with 3 bullet holes in it. The woman believed him, let him in, gave him a meal. He then convinced her to let him spend the night. She did. When the woman went out to go talk to her sons, he watched. When she came back in, went to bed, he snuck out to find where they were and handcuffed them in their sleep.
Oh.
When the sun came up, he kicked them awake and he walked them right by their mother into the posse. He did this all without a shot being fired or a gun being raised. Now, in another account, Reeves went after Bob Dozier, a more deadly outlaw who decided to suddenly pick up his life of crime. This led to him in a massive shootout. However, Reeves managed to kill him without any trouble. The time he went after a horse wrestler gang, and the leader tried to shoot Bass Reeves in a quick draw, but Reeves was faster. So, in 1902, also keep in mind how old Reeves is at this point. It's now 1902.
1902. I'm not good at math.
Neither am I. That's what I was trying to get you to do.
I'll give you a minute.
1902, I'll go on with the story. Reeves was given one of his toughest tasks when he had to lead a hunt on his own son. His son, Benny, killed his wife in a fit of jealousy. Other deputies refused to take this because they didn't want to face an angry Reeves. At this point, Reeves was known for being the deadliest and most effective deputy out there. Reeves took the job without question, even though he was angry and emotional about it, and went. He returned with Benny 2 weeks later, and Benny was sentenced to life in prison. He would later be released on good behavior, though. Over his career, Bass Reeves arrested 3,000 men and only killed 14. But the numbers aren't completely certain about how many men he killed. It's likely he could have killed more or less.
14 kills on the books.
Yeah, I'm sure he did apparently shoot a cook once, but again, it's one of those things. I didn't put it in because I found it in one source out of all the sources I looked through, and that wasn't the most trustworthy of sources that I looked for.
Yeah.
So so that's it. That's the story of Bass Reeves.
I did the mental math. He was like around like 64, 62 around there.
Yeah, so he was pretty old when he ended his career.
Yeah.
So Bass Reeves, just some talking about him in pop culture. He was the inspiration for the Lone Ranger, Denzel Washington's character in The Magnificent Seven, and he was partially the inspiration for Django and Django Unchained.
The Lone Ranger, a white guy.
Yeah.
Would you look at that? No surprises there.
So what do you think of our very effective deputy marshal?
Man, I love hearing stories about this kind of stuff because it's a really good mix of like the fun like Wild West culture that we're so exposed to, but also like no, that's not actually how it was, but damn, sometimes it gets pretty close to that.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really entertaining.
Well, also, like I want to share the story because, like, he in his career he arrested 3,000 people, only ever killed 14. I feel like a lot of cops should pay attention to that
Yeah,
statistic there.
that's even harder mental math, but
I'm
uh,
about to do that math.
with a calculator.
Yep. So for every 14 people he killed, he arrested 214.2.
Those 0.2 people really he really got them.
Yeah.
But
Okay, just arrested my left leg.
yeah. But also like um you always hear things like the Emancipation Proclamation as just like this blanketed idea that Abe Lincoln just signed away slavery and it was just over at that point. And that's not how it was at all. And the way in which people reacted to that varies very differently from person to person.
Yeah. I find Bass Reeves very interesting because like he is like often like I think the Wild West is definitely one of those things thought of as a white man's history.
No, it's actually very like
No, well,
it's
I'm
not
saying
white
like
at all.
no, like because it was former slaves, Latino people, Latinos from across the border, and
Yeah.
Native Americans who were the cattle, like the cowboys and the cattle drivers and whatnot. It was not this.
Yeah, no, very it's a very much a whitewashed history. And
Yeah. Well, and think of all the things like I'd said, like he lived amongst Native Americans. He was like the greatest shot ever. He would disguise himself. And then think about every Western movie you've ever seen and the fact that whenever you see those things, it's a freaking white guy.
yeah, unless I mean I'm not a connoisseur of the Western genre. Um,
Yeah. And that's
it's
understandable. Westerns are
and
pretty.
it's they're fun and all, but it's also for that reason. It's just like just a bunch of white dudes shooting each other in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I still find the history behind that pretty fascinating, and um, knowing that the story still exists, and it's starting to like creep its way back into pop culture slowly. It's pretty interesting to me because obviously he said he's the inspiration for the Lone Ranger, who is not a former slave by any means.
And it occurred to me like that and that's old times. But they made a remake of the Lone Ranger. Did it suck? Yes. But
Oh
would
yeah,
have been an opportune time while doing your research into the Lone Ranger? Like, oh, well, originally it's based off this black cowboy. Maybe we should. Maybe we could do that change for the better. But I mean, the Lone Ranger as a concept is incredibly problematic.
yeah.
Tonto as an existing character is hard to
Played
do.
by Johnny Depp in the
That was the most interesting decision ever.
Army Hammer in that, in which recent news makes that a little bit more funny.
Why? I'm out of the loop.
Have you not heard about the cannibalism accusations against Army Hammer?
I'm sorry, what?
Cannibalism.
How?
um, well, I don't like know enough to really explain that story right now. So um,
Yeah.
he's he's been on in the news quite a bit recently for not good reasons. He said he was gonna like I think it was like barbecue his like wife and child. I don't know. It's weird shit, but yeah, Johnny Depp and fucking Army Hammer should not have been the Lone Ranger and Tonto in 2013. By the way,
That's not long
that
ago.
was what like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Dear Lord. You know, 2013 was 8 years ago. Shit.
That's somewhere between. That's not long ago. Holy fuck, we're old.
Yep.
I've been having a lot of moments like that.
Literally like 20 minutes before I joined this call, I'm like, damn, I'm gonna be 21. It's weird.
I had a moment. I had to get my ID replaced, and it was like a younger freshman working there, and she said, "Oh, you have one of the old cards." Because you have that place that one of my orientation leaders told us about used to exist. Droogies.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that was just the equivalent of saying, wow, you're old.
I had my old car. I just had to get like I got to replace it. I was kind of sad because I was like, man, that was like vintage property right there.
Yeah. Fucking miss Droogies, man.
I never had the chance to go.
I ordered from there all the time. This is the only place that made decent food that didn't feel terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that ends the history portion of our podcast. Bass Reeves. This, good. It feels good to get our Black History Month episode in.
Yeah.
Now to talk about the news and politics portion of this. Texas.
Lord, pray for my Texan brethren. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't really know anybody in Texas, but
no, I don't either. But what I've been hearing about is not good. I mean, where do we start with it? I guess we should explain why things are so bad in Texas in the first place. So tell me, what do you know about the logistics of power grid structures?
man, I'm a film student.
I just love that look that you I hope for the people watching this video. Tyler's face was just him staring at me, and without saying the words fuck you, he said fuck you.
Like, damn, you really put me on the spot. All I know is movie.
So across the country, and even including Canada and parts of Mexico, we share our power with other power grid and station that way in case that there's ever something like a major snowstorm that prevents you or your power plants from running effectively, you can reroute power grids. Sounds logical and reasonable, right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Now that decision's been made at the state level of every state because it's actually legal in Texas. Because Texas is one of 48. I'm sorry, Texas is only of the main 48 states in America is the only one to have an independent power grid. This is due to the idea of corporate interests wanting them to not have to share power and be the prime provider. Why do you look so confused?
No, it's just like why do you gotta be the special one?
Because companies and stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And the only other two states that aren't directly connected to our power grid are Alaska and Hawaii. And they got pretty good reason not to be connected to our power grid.
Yeah, given that they're not connected to our country.
And Alaska even kind of shares power grids with Canada too.
Right.
So this has purely been done because the companies that run the power grids there don't want other companies making money from it.
It's always about money, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
It's
so
it's almost like, efficient power structure, money.
Hundreds of people dying under our leadership, money.
Let me rack in that dough.
Yeah. So like, what are your thoughts on this? Just, as it's going on, like, because even though we're not directly a history, like this isn't a history story, this is a news story. There's a history with conservatives and ignoring natural disasters and the problems that lead up to those natural disasters, or then providing aid.
Right. So recently I saw a headline. I was just like, Texans will have to endure power outages to keep the government out of their business. It was something along that. So somebody said that, and I can't remember who. But that sounds like
It is this.
just about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because it's so easy for people like that to just like ask people to just suffer.
It's like we all need to make sacrifices. I'm going my home with its own individual generator, unlimited gas, insulated walls, newly furnished windows, and a giant TV the size of a wall. Good luck, fuckers.
Ted Cruz be like, let me just hop over to Cancun real quick. I'm
Yeah,
sure
I swear to God, the Republicans are having a competition. It's like, which one of us can be the most incompetent and get reelected? Trump lost. Ted, what's your plan? I'm going to abandon my state while there's a mass power outage.
Ugh. And Ted Cruz is like actually one of my least favorite people like ever.
I will insist, I will keep going over this, but another senator has said you can kill Ted Cruz and get away with it in front of everybody on the Senate floor.
Yep.
And that was somebody in his party.
So the thing with Ted Cruz that's really like with him going to Cancun, his response was that like his daughters had like a couple days off from school, so their friends were like, "Hey, let's go on an event on vacation or something," and he's just like, "Yeah, like any good father, I took my daughter out." I'm like, man, your state is literally an icebox, and nobody else has the privilege to be able to take. Like, I'm sure every single Texan was there. Like, man, I wish I could take my daughter to Cancun. So not only is he just like completely deflecting the blame on the situation to his daughters.
Yeah, he's got to be the most spineless fucker in the world.
He's not going.
Is there anything more embarrassing you can imagine than being related to Ted Cruz?
Oh, who's your dad? Huh? Ted Cruz. So after he gets caught at the airport and everyone's like absolutely pissed off, we all just bully him into coming back to Texas.
Right, and then did his whole thing handing out paper towels and bottled water.
Texas strong.
Yeah.
He's like, man, you would not be in those pictures if the internet didn't bully you to come home.
Yeah. And this is just like, it's a trend with Republican politicians. I'm not saying that all politicians are guilty to some degree, but Republican politicians like Trump with Puerto Rico.
Man.
And then there's Bush and Katrina where they just refused to send aid.
Yeah, I remember when Texas also refused to send aid during Hurricane Sandy. That was the thing.
Yeah. And like the discourse around this isn't much better either, because you have Democrats on one side who are just making fun of the people in Texas that are freezing to death.
The biggest problem with this whole thing is like
the understanding is people have it because as me and you think of voting, it should be, or at least the way voting should be, it's, well, the majority of people in the state believe this, then that should be the win.
Yeah.
A majority of the people who live in Texas didn't vote on that though.
Right. Like the liberals and the leftists mocking Texans for being a red state and being like, this is what you get, is not good discourse whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's also just like people are dying and freezing and they're starving right now because their homes are actually frozen in ice.
Yeah.
Now is not the time.
And my beliefs, I'm not right. Like my beliefs is like, it's not, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a conservative. I'm for the people. I'm for the people in general. Even though I think those people have terrible opinions, I don't think they should be freezing to death.
No.
Oh my God, what the fuck's with Republicans and freezing their constituent? Didn't Trump leave a bunch of his supporters on an airport to freeze to death? What the fuck is with these people and freezing their supporters to death?
You also cannot say that you are against the Electoral College and then go and blame Texas for being a red state, even though it would not be a red state without the Electoral College. And you also have to understand the disgusting amount of gerrymandering that occurs within Texas voting districts.
Well, like an example of this is you can vote with a gun license in Texas, but you cannot vote with a student ID.
Yeah.
One of those is illegal. The other one is perfectly fine.
That's like, it's not just because a couple of electors in the college the majority of electors voted red because, that's what they were supposed to do. It's not entirely their fault. It's just the system's really stupid. But just because the electors chose Texas to be a red state, that doesn't mean not only should they not be denied aid, it's just that the people there, red, Democrat, Republic, I don't give a fuck. Nobody deserves to breathe like that. Like,
yeah,
we're both northeasterns. People. We're used to snow. It's not like a foreign concept, but like
you more so than me, even so, because you live in New York. You guys get hit harder than we usually do.
Yeah.
And that's also saying that too. I'm sure like there's a lot of like, now I'm not saying there aren't people who deserve hate, because there are.
Oh yeah.
For example, you have the red hats who are on Facebook saying it's like, oh, I guess I could really use some global warming right now. Isn't that right, you libtards? Huh? I'm like, sir, you are freezing to death right now in Texas. Do you not see the problem with that?
It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make to prevent government controlling my life.
It's like, what am I going to do? Believe the vast majority of scientists or this one guy on the news?
It's and then there's also like I saw a couple people like claiming that the snow is fake.
What?
I don't know.
Is that the new thing? The politics now is if you haven't personally. Oh, I can't say that. There are people who got COVID and didn't believe it. So it's like
there was one woman. I couldn't really tell if it was a joke or not. It seemed very sincere.
I'm just looking forward to the Marjorie Taylor Greene post about how we made a Jewish weather machine.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, damn, the fucking Jew-based weather machine is really acting up lately. I would know I operate it.
That was my bad. I spilled a coffee while I was manning the post today.
Yeah, sorry, our Jew machine wasn't working right. So
I really feel like I should be making this joke because I am very Jewish. So, like, I can only say I'm related to a Jewish people. I'm barely Jewish.
Yeah, like.
Tyler trying to get canceled before they get famous. Da-da-da.
I would. they actually teach you how to use it at your bar mitzvah.
I didn't have that, so that's why I didn't know.
So at your bar bat mitzvah, once everyone's done with like the ceremony and like all the packing up, like, all right, we're gonna go to the party now and have a good time. They take you tied to a secret room. Like, listen, there's this secret space weather machine running by and we're gonna have to show you how to use it. Like, guys, my family's leaving. Like, listen, it's gonna take no time at all. I think if they trained us a little
this bit here turns the frogs gay.
if they trained us a little bit better, maybe I could have prevented.
Yeah.
Like I was really like trying to go. I had to go to the bathroom and everything. Like, listen, guys, I don't have time to learn this weather machine. You gotta let me go. It's my bar mitzvah. My family's waiting for me.
I'm just doing communist things. Like I'm doing other liberal communist things, like going to college and suddenly changing my sexuality because that's apparently what the conservative understanding of sexuality and gender
Yeah.
is that like you go to college, it changes apparently.
And then they assign you a pronoun like once you
Yeah.
like to the building.
Yeah. Like I am actually a blem. That's what college is. My obviously communist college of Quinnipiac University.
They teach you how to be how to be an attack helicopter and everything.
God, that might be the biggest fucking red flag to tell you somebody's politics if they do that joke.
Identify as an attack helicopter. Yeah, that's what they teach
I identify as the motherfucker that just punched you. What?
That's what they teach you at these liberal institutions.
Yeah. Oh my god. We went so off topic. Yeah, and the other thing too is like talking about this as far as like how the discourse has come up. How fucking grateful are you that Trump A doesn't have a Twitter right now, or B isn't president right now?
I
Imagine him responding to this.
Oh my god. I mean, it's not like
You don't have to try that hard. We saw how he responded to a hurricane.
the several hurricanes that devastated like Texas and Puerto Rico during his
Yeah.
administration.
Yeah.
A snowstorm. He would not think about it at all. And like his supporters would be like, "Mr. Trump, help us." It's like, "Yeah, we're helping you. The fine Americans on the ground are doing their finest to help Texan citizens."
And like meanwhile, it's like volunteers. Like
He's,
that's the thing.
he's making the statement from Mar-a-Lago.
Yep. As like the water's coming up to his neck.
They literally have the fucking cameras on him, and he's in his golf outfit, and they're like questioning him about Texas. Like, "Sir, what do you have to say about the freezing Texans?" He's like, "They're very fine people. They know how to vote very well, and I trust that they'll get through this. They're strong, patriotic Americans, and I love them. I love them
And
very
the
much."
men, they're big boys down there. They're big boys. He fucking loves large men.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever like hear that speech? The generals, they all look so handsome in their uniforms. You just want to touch them. Or like the time he's talking about the football players, like, "Oh, they're some big boys here, some very big boys."
Or the time
I made myself uncomfortable doing that.
or one of the times at his rally where he's like, "I could kiss every single one of you in this audience, all the guys and the beautiful women."
That was during COVID-19, right? Or
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think that was. I could be wrong about this, but it could be. I think it was like almost. It was very soon. It might have been soon after he recovered.
I like, you know what? It is so nice being done with him, but god damn it,
I mean, he's still making his bum ass statements on Twitter.
I thought he was off Twitter.
Oh, he's off Twitter, but he's like he can still like release like official statements.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so he released a statement like today that I didn't read because I couldn't fucking care less. But he the other day he released a statement about Rush Limbaugh.
Oh yeah, Rush Limbaugh died.
Fuck that dude.
Where his location is if anybody has to take a piss or shit.
Here, this.
We aren't encouraging crimes here, but you definitely should not piss on Rush Limbaugh's. Yes, you should. Rush Limbaugh's grave, or to do a squat and drop on top of his tombstone.
This is what like I can't see. He's very pro-death for somebody who claimed to be pro-life, but this is the official statement by Donald Trump on the death of Rush Limbaugh. The great Rush Limbaugh has passed away to a better place, free from physical pain and hostility. His honor, courage, strength, and loyalty will never be replaced. Rush was a patriot, a defender of liberty, and someone who believed in all of the greatness of our country stands for. Rush was a friend to myself and millions of Americans, a guiding light with the ability to see the truth and paint vivid pictures over the airwaves. Melania and I express our deepest condolences to his wonderful wife, Catherine, his family, and all his dedicated fans. He will be missed greatly. Not by me.
Yeah, I'm Googling where his grave is because one of my goals in life before I die is going to be to take a shit on his grave and then wipe my ass on the grass like a dog dragging its butt. On his grave. I want to disrespect the man that much.
The only thing I'm mourning is it didn't happen sooner.
And if he was ashes, I'm doing shit to those ashes.
You ever see this meme with Grant Gustin on the grave of Oliver Queen? It's this.
Yeah.
That's gonna be me.
Yeah. I think what, just going on to like talk about like Rush Limbaugh, why we're saying him being dead such a good thing. This is a man who said, if women say no, they actually mean yes, has said the N-word repeatedly times, just done ton of shitty racist things, and has maybe promoted some of the most hateful rhetoric in years, was a COVID denialist, and may I go on?
Didn't even mention AIDS update.
AIDS
Rush Limbaugh's radio program AIDS Update, where he basically during the AIDS epidemic would just go on a show and mock dead gay people for dying of AIDS pretty much.
So the only shame is that he died probably not as painfully as it could have been.
I mean, lung cancer seems pretty bad, but it could.
Oh no, unless it was a parasite eating his penis inside. There's no way it is as painful as would be satisfying to anybody who had hated him.
Can we also mention that at the State of the Union in 2020, this is the man that Donald Trump awarded the Medal of Freedom to. The same guy who said,
I don't know if you just heard my soul leave my body.
Oh, I heard it. Yeah. This is the guy that said, I something. I think it was like, I wish segregated buses could come back. This is Obama's America. Or he called Chelsea Clinton a dog and whipped out a picture of her when she was 13 at the time of this.
Yeah, I'm saying as like a kid who wasn't the best looking and still isn't the best looking, it is not great to be made fun of as a kid. But on a national level by a fucking person with a national audience. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, so fuck Rush Limbaugh. I hope his death was really painful. That's all I can say.
Oh, here's a Rush classic. The NAACP should have riot rehearsal. They should get a liquor store and practice robberies.
Okay, let's stop talking about Rush Limbaugh. See, anything else this week before we head out? So there's Texas is frozen, and Rush Limbaugh's dead.
And I don't
know. What we got, Black History Month's coming to a wrap. I don't know if we're doing another episode. I think next episode might be your first movie review. Plans of that.
We might be recording before the end of Black History Month, but I don't think the next episode will release in time.
Yeah, so we're glad to at least get the stories. Next year, when we're more organized and we're more on top of shit, we hope to do like an episode every week during Black History Month.
Yeah.
But, shit's crazy. Well, as always, that's it for our episode today. Fuck Rush Limbaugh. Piss on his grave.
But we love Bass Reeves.
Bass Reeves is the motherfucking best cowboy there ever was. And of people we stand for on this podcast, Bass Reeves. Bass Reeves, I will say, is one of the few cops in this podcast who had
Hell yeah.
God damn it. All right. That
Not
is
all
it.
cops.
Not all cops, but Baz Reeves, he's the best.
Yep.